Going live. Going live, and you are live. What is going on, everybody? RogersBase here. Hello, and welcome to my live reaction to One Piece Manga Chapter 1174. This week's chapter is titled The Strongest Thing in the World, and I just want to kick things off today by saying it feels good to be back. I feel like the last 2 or 3 One Piece manga chapters that we've read, I've obviously been traveling. I was in Chicago, New York, Vegas. I was traveling a ton over the course of this past 3 weeks. And so it just feels good to be back in my normal setup, have everything in HD again if you're watching over on the YouTube side of things. Of course, as always, I've been mentioning this since the beginning of the year. You can check out my live reactions and reviews on podcast platforms now too. So if you're not already following me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, you can find me there too. Or of course, right here on YouTube Music too. But with all that being said, I'm also seeing people who are watching the video version saying, "We love your shirt." Yes, I am wearing the Chopper shirt from the Harajuku store. I figured I should wear a One Piece shirt for the big One Piece chapter reaction back. Also tonight, I'm going to be on the One Piece podcast discussing this very chapter. So we have a lot of stuff to cover. Let's jump right into it. One Piece manga chapter 1174, the strongest thing in the world. Here we go, starting things off with a reader request. Roger going on a walk with a Tyrannosaurus he tamed like a puppy by Takomon. So it doesn't get clearer than that with the title. You know immediately what's going on here. You got Goldie Roger, young Roger, feeding this Tyrannosaurus with the cute little pirate hat on with this giant slab of meat. Also, side note, literally has nothing to do with One Piece, everything to do with the upcoming Mario movie. I don't know if you guys saw the trailers and posters that they've been posting for the Mario movie, but they've been showing a lot of the real life, realistic looking Tyrannosaurus in some of the Yoshi posters and things for this Mario Galaxy movie. I don't know what they're doing. I don't feel like at this point they should be able to call it the Mario Galaxy movie. I'm we've seen stuff from Sunshine, Odyssey, Mario 2. I'm not seeing a lot of Galaxy right now. I don't know what's going in. Anyway, lock it, everybody. We're starting the chapter. Here we go. 1174. Let's see. Enough of this stuff with Roger and the T-Rex on the front. Let's see where we are picking up. So obviously this is from the destruction of the ship we saw at the end of the chapter last time. And who's saying this? Oh, that's bad, stupid Sleeped. Oh, so this is Summers. Okay, so this is Summers after messing up the ship. I lost the ship. And I lost the sea clouds. And you could see this little hole in the middle of the clouds as well as he's standing there on the platform. You can also see the arrow, and you can see the kids walking towards it. Okay. This looks really bad for me. The power of the arrow is still active. The kids are going to walk themselves right off the edge and then splatter onto the mountainside below. Gunko, please, Gunko, stop the kids, Gunko. We need to pause the operation. Wait a minute. That's not going to work. Great Emu is inside of her now. Hey, yo! Relax, Emu, relax. If I could just undo that arrow. But what's it made out of? I mean, we can't even scratch it, so now we're jumping back over. The giants are trying to stop it. Nothing's working against the arrow. It's fine. It's pointless, you cowards. If you could stop it, I would have already done so. And you could see the entire time through this, the thorn creature in the background as well as these giants are over here. Hold on. So Summers is just speaking. A lot of this is if you would have told me this chapter is opening up with a Summers internal monologue, I don't know. That's just not what I was expecting starting this chapter off. I don't mind it though. I think this is good. I like seeing the inner workings of his mind. He's saying, wait a minute. All those parents right at arm's length, unable to touch due to the thorns, and forced to witness their beloved children plummet to their deaths. Now that is a deliciously depraved way to die. What a freak. Summers has got to go. That's a great panel, though, of his reaction face really taking pleasure in this, just completely shaded out. What in the world? I think this is worth it. If anyone's at fault here, it's the Great One who's controlling Gunko's body. Don't let Emu hear you say that. Don't go blaming Emu for this. We can always march over more kids. So come on, call their names. Scream your family love to the heavens. This is the real stuff. This is emotion. What an absolute monster. He's literally nosebleeding from this. What in the world? Summers. Obviously, you got to have this moment, though, of him doing this so that when his death happens, it's all the sweeter. That's what we need from this. This is unbelievable. I agree. I see somebody in my chat, Leo Legendario, saying he is definitely on the list. He is definitely on the list. I agree. He is on the list. There are files about Summers. Definitely 100%. What in the world? All right. Listen up, all you brats and PTA members. We were planning to have you taken safely and smoothly to the Holy Land. And you can see some of the sleeped cryptids in the background here as well. You got the giant skeleton one, the dragon one, the one with like the top hat that's in the background as well. Listen up, you brats and PTA. It's crazy also he calls them PTA members. We were planning to have you taken safely and smoothly to the Holy Land. But due to an unforeseen accident, we seem to have lost the ship and the sea clouds they rested upon. This means you will be reaching your goal via the tragic conclusion of falling to your deaths. This guy is a monster. And you can see these kids walking towards it, the arrow still aiming off the cliff. They're like, there's nothing there. What's going on? If we keep walking, we're going to fall off. And he's about to call this hilarious. As these other giant parents are walking over saying, there's no way I'll let them keep going. Even if I have to give up my arms to do it. And Grandpa Oimo is grabbing onto the thorns. Again, dude, like, we've seen a lot of this at this point. These giants that you can't do anything. The arrows are going to keep moving. The thorns are going to keep thorning. The sleep dids are going to keep regenerating. There's not much you can do here. And you can see once again, the kid screaming, Grandpa Oimo, as he's trying to grab them. And then meanwhile, Summers is saying, I'm afraid there's nothing that you can do. What does Summers think he's even doing? It took forever to get those kids to the port. See, Killingham is even annoyed with him. Like, what is up? You're going against the plan. You're speaking against the great emu. What is this? This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. Took forever to get those kids to the port. Also, thank you whoever just became a member. Appreciate it. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. Someone just became a member at the Pirate King tier. Yo, let's go. King of One Piece. Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate it. Nakama. Thank you. Wow, this must be a good chapter then. I mean, so far it's pretty good, but this must be a big one if people are joining at the Pirate King tier already. Holy mackerel. All right, let's see. Damn it. Stop it, Grandma Oimo. I'm sorry, kids. Forgive me. And you can see Oimo still laying there on the ground, bleeding out of his hands. That settles it. As long as that arrow doesn't disappear, there's no way to stop the children for sure. So we can't save them anymore? Oh no. And you got Ripley there as well. Summers still like the absolute freak he is, laughing his way through this. All we can do is helplessly watch as our children plummet off the edge before our eyes. If they fall into the underworld, we'll never even find the bodies. Curse you, you foul demons. This is wild. These kids even, some of the dialogue of these kids is crazy. I think heaven is punishing me for doing bad things. You're children, bro. You haven't done anything bad yet. That's what they said when I got scolded too. I wish I'd been a good boy. What in the world? We're all gonna die because we were naughty? What is this? I don't want to die. I'll be a good girl, I swear. Just please, help us. Spare our lives. I'm sorry for being bad. Please. And again, they're all just going through their final thoughts as they're walking. Colin saying, I won't be bad anymore. You weren't bad to begin with, Colin. Remember, when you're a bad boy, the sun god is watching. Yeah, but I wanted in a duel, so it's mine now. Hold on. Time out. What is going on here? Why is he carrying a doll of Emmett? What is going on here? We're going to get some good lore? I would like this. Colin's got a doll of Emmett? And I won it in a duel, so it's mine now. Interesting. So they've got toys of some of the ancient characters. Okay. I'm wondering how this is going to connect to the mural and everything. This is cool. Remember, when you're a bad boy, the sun god is watching. All right. That also explains why there was like an evil version of the sun god that these kids were afraid of. But all right. If you're that strong, You should really be gentler to the weak. Now go and apologize. And you can see these kids all thinking of their worst moments every time that they disobeyed their parents. Why'd you leave so much food on your plate? Do you hate my cooking that much? And the little kid is going, I just don't like carrots. She's thinking that's the reason she's going to die. It's because she didn't eat carrots. Don't take your father's sword out again. I hate you, Grandpa. You're a barbaric pirate. And they're all thinking of their worst moments. Why did you lie to me? How can I keep you safe if you won't be truthful? Why did you bring that to school? I forgot my homework on purpose because I didn't do it. Yo, that's valid. That's fine. And these kids are all still screaming, still covered in thorns, right by the edge of the cliff, saying, I don't want to die. Please, Mommy, please. And Ripley showing up right at the front of the cliff, holding on to Colin, saying, come here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to stop you. And they're all saying, get away from me, Mommy. Please, you're going to die. And she's just tanking the thorns, hugging little Colin. And all these kids are going to keep walking, though. She's just going to get pushed off the cliff. You're going to die, Mommy. Excuse me. I'm choking. Get away from me, Mommy, please. You're going to die. And she says, I don't care. I won't let you die alone. Dang. Dang, it caught me off guard for a second. I got to take a swig of my water. Man, I won't let you die alone. All right, and you can see the arrow still pushing them off the cliff. You know they're going to get saved, though. You know, like Loki or Luffy or somebody is going to save them. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Because they're aiming towards the underworld. Absolutely has to be where this is leading. Once again, you got all these parents holding on to their kids, getting stabbed by thorns, getting pushed off this cliff, all screaming, Mom, Mommy, Father, Mom, Mother, Grandpa. Don't worry, everyone. I'm sure it'll all turn out just fine. And Summers is still yucking it up, laughing, going, gee, ha, 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 ha. Just crying, laughing at this. What an absolute monster. All right, and you can see the arrow still pushing them off. They're all falling down, saying, right, everyone? We'll survive, right? One of the other ones grabbing on to Ronja being the one that stood up to them first. I heard you earlier. You were so brave, Ronja. And she's screaming, Father! Bent, meanwhile, they're jumping over to the mom. What's the scariest thing in the world? My mama. This is the one that imagined his mom as the evil Slipted. Oh, I'm sorry. I said you were scary. And even she's showing up saying, that's fine, darling. Sometimes mama needs to be scary to keep you safe. Oh, and this one is the one that doesn't have any parents. They're all so lucky to have their parents hug them in the end. Yo, why are you doing this, Oda? This is brutal, man. Dang. And this is where, oh, man. Angie's going to come in like her mom in the last moments. I can be like a mother to you, but you're not my mother. Oh, man. And she's going, Joanna, holding on to Ange. Yo, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. Don't show up at school. I'm embarrassed to have a nerd for a brother. Roto? Roto even too? I'll try my best to hide my nature. This is heavenly punishment. Ultra rare Bjorn. Roto! Making up for being a weirdo in the beginning of Elbaf with the giants and with the Legos. Roto jumping onto his brother to save his brother. Yo, I like that Ange is coming through for poor little Joanna who doesn't even have parents. Oh, man. Good moment, though. Man. And you got Roto's brother screaming, Big Buono! I also like, too, how we're finally connecting the dots with some of those other characters and some of these kids. Because I did think, I'll save it for the review. That's fine. I'll save it for the review. Just remind me, if I forget to talk about it, then I want to talk about this sequence during my review. We'll talk about this exact sequence. But I have something to say about this. We'll save it. So meanwhile, we got Summers going, gee ha ha ha. Look at that. Like scraps of garbage plunging down to hell. It makes my heart tremble. What a saga of emotions. You know, it could have just been 10 measly brats. If only they stood back and watched. Stupid mothers. Stupid fathers. They're all martyrs for love. Oh, I've got such a stitch in my side. Such poignantly pointless deaths. I don't even see, like, Summers is such a freak, bro. Again, I'll talk about it more in my review. But I don't even see any world in which this could be this funny. Even if somehow, some way, you got some pleasure in other people's pain, all of this cannot be that funny to you. There's no way. He's making, well, whatever. I'll keep reading. I'll keep reading. Anyway, I'm 100% sure I'm gonna turn this page and someone's gonna be saving these kids. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I'm on page 13 right now. Here we go. We're turning the page. Wait. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. What is this? I know what this is gonna be. Oh, they're on Loki. They're totally on Loki. They're 100% on Loki right now. That's for sure where this is going. We're gonna get the devil fruit reveal. Oh, good stuff. Hold on. So you see them. Oh, yeah. You see them on the back of what looks like a mountain range. Colin, where are we? I don't know, but everyone's alive. And they've all landed. It's the Gum Gum Tummy Cracker. Now you're poking me, so get off already. Luffy, what's going on? Now, yeah, you can see Luffy's face down there. Listen up. Once we're up there, oh yeah, that's clearly Loki's eye. Once we're up there, I need you off my back at once. So this dude is like monstrous size then in his devil fruit form. I need you off my back at once. Your back, it'll prevent me from fighting. They just started falling out of nowhere. Good thing we were just passing by. It's not a good thing. I'm a destroyer. I can't guarantee that anyone survives. Now here goes. And you can see the snow falling, all the but also, wait a minute. So the arrow, I'll save it. I'm just going to keep reading. I got questions, but this is cool. So they landed on the back of Loki and Luffy with a Gum Gum Tummy Cracker. Okay. Snow. What's it snowing for? Thunder? And what's going on? The whole tree is rippling, and oh, dude! And you see the music, dum da da dum da dum da da dum da da dum da da dum da dum da da dum. So not only are we getting Gear 5, not only are we getting the drums of liberation, we're seeing all the lightning strikes raining down. Oh, good. Oh, this is gonna be good. What is this rhythm? What's going on here? Elbaf itself is shaking. Doom da da doom da doom da doom doom, and you can see the waves, some of the cliffs and some of the trees and some of the background things all moving and shaking with the rhythm of the drums of liberation. Jarl saying, on an exceedingly rare day, when lightning and snow combine, a vast beast will blanket the sky with its presence and with the sound of the drums of liberation. And now they know they're screwed. Summers ain't laughing anymore. He's not crying anymore. He's just going, huh? Face completely whited out. Gunko / Emu Gunko looking over, knowing something bad is about to go down. Here we go. Oh man. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Oh, I just noticed the little Ragnar up there too. Hold on. Wow. On that day, the sun god will appear. And we finally see full form of Loki, fire in his eyes, bandage on his horn, Loki as a giant black dragon, Luffy Gear 5 bouncing around on the top of him, and we got little Ragnar hanging off the side of his horn. Yo, how huge is Loki? This is like dwarfing some of the sleep dudes. This page is amazing. They're all screaming, hya, 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 kuri-di-di-di-di. I just can't get over how huge you are. On that day, the sun god will appear. Dude, you know when this is animated, this is going to be like amazing. We're going to have the drums of liberation playing in the background, the snow, the blizzard going, and the lightning strikes flying everywhere. Look at even some of the stuff in the background. The detail he did on this with some of these cryptids just being obliterated from him just showing up. Like literally he's breaking out of the underground with these giant kids on his back, and you could see these sleep cryptids are dwarfed by him. And those sleep cryptids were huge versus some of the other giants. So not only how huge is he, but also how huge is Luffy right now? Because Luffy has got to be absolutely massive. Luffy has got to be like how he was during Egghead Island when he grabbed Kizaru. He's got to be even bigger than that if that's his size on Loki's head right now. What in the world? Also, again, I love seeing little Ragnar in his little squirrel form hanging off the side as well. But again, reminding yourself of the scale of all this, that Ragnar in his quote-unquote little squirrel form is bigger than most of the giants right now. What in the world? The sun god will appear. That is a gorgeous panel, man. That is really, really good stuff. Is this the end of the chapter? To be continued, page 16 and 17, One Piece manga chapter 1174 end. Wow. Wow, man. That is awesome. Wow. Wow. I'm looking back at some of the other panels right now, too, of them like landing on Loki's back. I want to hop right into my review because, we're on break, by the way. No, we're on break. No, man. I don't want to go on break after this. This is a good chapter. I don't want to go on break after this. Man. Also, how long has it been since the last full double page spread, the Five Elders? No, we had a double page spread like 2 weeks ago. We've had double page spreads for a while. I guess to be fair, we did have 3 chapters in a row, though. So that does make sense that we're going on a break now after 3 chapters in a row. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, we've got the live action coming up. Oda's going to be promoting that. So that does make sense. That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense that they're going on break right now. Dang, this is really good, though. This is a great chapter. Loved all the stuff with Loki as well. Man. All right, I kind of want to jump into my review first because I have a lot of stuff to say about this. And then we'll obviously get into super chats and going over James's thumbnail and doing everything. But I want to hop right into my review first, all right? First and foremost, the first thing I want to say about this chapter, Summers is so unbelievably irredeemable, it's not even funny. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a villain that is just so out there goofily evil. Because I feel like even when we were in Egghead Island with Saturn, right? Saturn was like the godhead of science. So a lot of the stuff that he was doing, there was like the excuse of, we're experimenting. And obviously he was evil. Outright, all of them are evil. But they weren't shown to be evil in such a goofy way. Like they weren't outright laughing nonstop at the suffering of all these other people. He's making Summers out to be like the worst of all human beings. And obviously we've known this from some of the previous chapters, that Summers' whole thing, right, is like emotion and passion. And so he is, I'm assuming, finding joy in like the passion of the parents sacrificing themselves for their children in their final moments. But he's still just an absolute monster. And I don't see a world... I mean, I first off, I'm curious who's going to fight him, right? Because he's not making it out of this alive. There's no way. This is one of those characters that... by the way, thank you, whoever just super chatted. I don't know what that was, but I just got the little alert on my screen. Thank you. I'll read some of that stuff in a second. But I'm just like blown away by how evil they're making him. Again, we've seen him be evil multiple points throughout the course of this story, even in the God Valley flashback. Some of the stuff that we saw with Shakiyaku, I feel like we've seen a lot of him being bad. But this chapter in particular made him like so beyond irredeemable, like so absolutely positively bad, absolutely no one can defend him, absolutely the most goofy of the worst villains. It's just, I feel like it's been a minute since we've seen a One Piece villain like that. Again, I feel like a lot of the time, especially post-time skip, you're getting these villains, your Doflamingos, your Katakuris, even your Kaidos to some extent, where you're seeing kind of like backstories of how they got to be that way. Whereas Summers is just outright horrible. And he's not even showing how Summers got to that point. He's just awful. So yeah, I am very curious who's going to fight him. I'm seeing a lot of people in my chat say, "Oh, I could turn my chat on again." By the way, hold on. I don't have to worry about getting spoiled now. I can turn my chat on. By the way, I'm seeing a lot of people in my chat saying they think it's going to be Sanji. I am inclined to agree. I also think it is going to be Sanji who's going to fight him, because I feel like of the three of them, of Killingham, Gunko, and Summers, Summers is probably the weakest. Summers has already fought Gabon. And Gabon has shown, to have been freaking him out in the past. So I do feel like Sanji would be a good opponent. I think this could be like Sanji's hockey awakening, right? That you see a situation where Sanji's going in against Summers, taking him out. I do think that would be a good one. I think Sanji taking care of Summers would be nice. And then utilizing his hockey and what he's learned from Gabon. I don't know. Or like even awakening his hockey to try to like be a rival with Zoro. I don't know, but I agree. I think my chat is on it that Sanji is going to beat Summers with the power of love. I think that's right on. What I also want to speak to while we're on the summer stuff, because again, there's so much to say about Loki and the Sun God stuff at the end, and obviously that's super interesting, and I know a lot of people are into it, but I kind of want to get to some of the other stuff first that I think will be forgotten as we get further and further into talking about this chapter. I actually really liked the way this entire sequence was handled with the kids. Because if we're being completely honest and transparent, I think this has probably been the least interesting part of Elbaf so far. I think if you had to pinpoint like the moment where it kind of feels like Elbaf is dragging a little bit throughout the course of this story arc, I think it always comes back to these kids. Right? Like walking towards the fire, walking towards the ship, all the stuff with the thorns, all the stuff with the arrows. These kids, time and time again, have been sort of the thing that's been like holding us back a little bit. That like Elbaf, otherwise, I feel like has been like a 10 out of 10. And I feel like the stuff with the kids has always just kind of felt a little like, yeah, I'm not connecting with this. I actually think bringing it all together and having the kids tied with their parents in the end, them genuinely thinking they are going to die, them not knowing all the stuff that's been going on in the underworld with Loki and with Luffy. In this very moment, they're literally just showing up for their kids so their kids don't have to die alone. I think that is a really touching, very sweet kind of moment, even removing the Summers weird guffawing and laughing out of all of this. I actually think this makes a lot of the stuff that we saw with the kids earlier and like the explanation of who these kids were and who they were related to, it makes it a lot better. I think it retroactively is going to make a lot of those chapters that felt like they were dragging a little bit feel a little better when you're reading it at a binge, because then you get to these moments with the kids. I think the only problem is that a lot of the stuff with these kids and with the parents, right? Like this stuff got set up pre-God Valley flashback, right? So it's like, because you're not getting the full follow-up and the full, moment, the climax of the story basically with the parents and the children, because you're getting that after we were already so focused on a totally different story, I feel like it doesn't hit quite as much because we've been away from these characters for so long. But again, I also think at the same time, I know I'm kind of like countering myself a little bit, but I also feel like, I don't know, this has made those older chapters better. Like I think even building up stuff like the little gag with the mom sleep cryptid, right? Like where you had the evil quote unquote mom sleep cryptid and we all laughed about it. But then you actually get this moment of Bent, right? This little kid seeing his mom in his quote unquote final moments showing up for him and realizing that even though his mom was tough on him and that he was scared of his mom his whole life, that his mom still at the end of the day was a great mother. I loved that. I liked all the stuff with Angie, right? Coming through for the kid that has no parents. That was like, I am your teacher. I will be your stand-in mother. I will be the one that protects you. At the end of the day, you can trust me. And then her having that moment of being like, oh my gosh, you actually are like a parent to me. Having the climax of that moment, I thought was great. I think even the stuff with Road, I think that redeeming Road as a character a little bit from when we first started this story arc, right? Rodo, you see being a little bit of a freak, pretending to be a sun god. He had that like skull mask on. You got the stuff with the Legos, him like capturing Nami, trying to dress her up. Like there was all kind of weird stuff that we saw with Rodo, and Rodo was regularly like the punching bag of the new giant pirates, right? Regularly the punching bag of all of them, because he was kind of a freak. And then when you get that moment of like the brother, where was that? On page, I'm going to pull that up. Where was that? This was page 12 and 13. When you got his brother thinking that like when he's walking off this cliff thinking he's going to die, he's saying, this was my heavenly punishment for being embarrassed to have a nerd brother like you. And then you see in the final moments, Rogue grabbing onto him and him screaming big brother. Again, I think he paced these moments out quite well. And I see a world in which I might not have like enjoyed this chapter if it was paced differently. But I think the rate at which he was showing each of those character moments with each of the kids and each of their parents, tied with the reveal of Loki at the end and all that stuff in the beginning of the chapter with Summers, with all his like weird facial expressions and all the stuff where you're even seeing Killingham being like, bro, Summers is a freak. We don't need him right now. And Summers going against Emu, right? Saying like, well, at the end of the day, this was actually Emu Gunko's fault. So I have nothing to do with any of this. It was that dumb sleep cryptid that looked like Nika. Like, I like the way that all of this was laid out. I actually think it was a really, really great chapter overall. Yeah, I see a world in which I would have really not enjoyed this chapter very much, but I think they handled this excellently. I think this is a really, really great chapter. And I don't even mind that we're going on break. I think this was great. Yeah, I think this is great. With that being said, right? With that being said, getting all this stuff out of here with like Oimo and the other kids and Ripley and all these other parents and having talked about all that, I want to talk a little bit about this final panel, right? I got to talk a little bit about this thing with Loki and him, confirmation that he's a dragon. I'm assuming it's going to be like Nidhogg, right? It's got to be something like that. It's got to be like the Nidhogg fruit or whatever. I love this design. However, what I was going to bring up during my reaction that I said I'm going to save for my review is that I feel like genuinely, I don't know how they lose at this point. I don't think this is like one of those story arcs where I feel like as we were getting into the climax of Egghead and we had like all of the Gorosei showing up, there was genuinely a moment of like, how are they going to get out of this? I'm seeing this with Loki and with Luffy and with Ragnar and all the other giants and all the other characters that haven't even done anything yet, where I'm like, there's no world in which they lose. There's no world in which they lose. When you see the scale of Loki right now, just obliterating every single one of these sleep cryptids, it doesn't even matter if they can regenerate. They're all getting blown away. Loki can literally just eat or step on any of them, and it's over. Like, I don't know how they lose. I don't think they do. And not to say that I ever think that they would lose, right? But I do think this still is leading up to all the stuff we were talking about at the beginning of Elbaf, where the scale of destruction that comes from this, the beast showing up and the sun god appearing, all this, I feel like this level of destruction could still eventually lead to Ragnarok, right? This could still lead to the destruction of the rest of Elbaf. But I'm also wondering, with how massive Loki is and how clearly strong he is and how big Luffy is in this moment, already going Gear 5, and Ragnar, like, where are we going to have time for Zoro or Sanji or Usopp or any of that at this point? Like, why would we even need them at this point? I don't know. I feel like other than for character moments, I really feel like everything that we've seen in Elbaf up to this point, including Emu inside of Gunko, I really truly think they're going to be obliterating all of them. The only thing I could think of, the only thing where I could see this happening and then being a moment of like, uh-oh, how are we going to get out of this, is somehow, some way, Emu as Gunko reversing Loki and making a Domi reversing Loki. That's the only thing I could really see at this moment that could maybe like keep us from winning, right? Would be if Loki got Domi reversing. But then, at the same time, I also feel like there's not a world in which, if that happens, Luffy does not reversey the reversey, right? We've all been talking about the idea that, like, just like Emu has the power to reverse characters, Luffy's going to have the power to reverse characters too. I don't think that's even a question. I think guaranteed that will happen at some point. I didn't even think it has to do with Loki. I think even with the stuff with Dory and Bragi and some of the other characters that are already reversing, I think we're going to see Luffy activating the reversey and fixing them, you know? So to me, I don't know. Again, I don't see, there's no tension in the end of Elbaf, which to be fair is not even like a critique for me, because I'm just hyped to see all of this strength actually be shown off. But for me, I don't know, I feel like going into the end of Egghead or going into some of these other arcs, there really was this feeling of like, how are we going to get out of this? And I really don't feel that at the end of Elbaf right now. I really feel like this is not going to be a problem. Loki's going to take care of everybody. He might get Domi reversey. Luffy reverses the reversey. Elbaf gets destroyed. They get out of there and go to Final War, you know? So that's kind of how I feel right now. And that's, again, not a critique. That's not me saying like I'm not enjoying this. I am fully enjoying this, truly. But I think we're at a point with the power level of these characters and where we are in the story where there's no tension for me whatsoever with the characters that we have present here. With it just being Gunko and with Emu inside of her, with Summers and with Killingham. Which I also think is probably what Oda meant to do, right? Because as we get into Final War and we fight actual Emu and we're fighting Shamrock and Garling and we've got the revolutionaries involved, like the scale of which those battles are going to be moving further into the story, it's going to be crazy. You have to remember, we're probably going to have, like, moving into Final War, this version of Loki teaming up with Shirahoshi, activating the sea beasts, creating giant sea king monsters coming out of the ground, with Luffy cloaking everybody with Gear 5. Like, it's going to get crazy as we move into Final War. When you see the scale of this at the end of a singular chapter of a standalone story arc, like, it really sticks in your brain what Oda said all those years ago about how Final War is going to dwarf Marineford. I really, excuse me, sorry, I got a little bit of a cough still. Excuse me, god damn. Excuse me, you guys, sorry about that. But I really, excuse me, man, Jesus. I really just genuinely feel like it's going to be crazy as we get into Final War and we see the scale of some of these fights. I see some people saying I really want Emu to win here, man. I just don't see it happening. I really don't see a world in which Emu can win. Unless Luffy truly cannot discover how to reversey during this story arc. If, like, maybe there is a world in which Emu reverses Loki and destroys Elbaf, and Luffy and the Straw Hats and the Giants leave Elbaf together and have to get out of here and make their way towards Final War, and that's what eventually gets Luffy to understand that he can counter Emu. Maybe. I mean, that is a possibility. A genuine possibility is that Emu reverses Loki, destroys Elbaf, brings on Ragnarok, and all the rest of the characters that are on our side essentially move on to the next island, move on to the next war, and Elbaf, as it stands, this country that has this long history of, you know, being a war-torn country, actually gets destroyed. Maybe. I mean, maybe that could end up being the case, maybe. But in that world, yeah, like Clax is bringing it up, in that world, like Dorian Broggy would still be reversied. There'd be a lot of characters that, you know, Omo and Kashi might get reversied at some point. I don't know. But again, it's exciting. Like, again, me saying that the tension doesn't seem to be there for me personally, in which, like, I could see them losing at the end of this, that is not a critique of the arc. This is actually one of those weird situations in which, like, the high scale of power is actually getting me excited for what's to come. And that's rare for me. I think that's a very rare situation when I'm reading a shonen and I see somebody like Loki that's just kind of all-powerful, and I'm like, oh man, I want to see more of what this character can do, you know? And a lot of those kind of situations, I'm just kind of like, all right, whatever. Show me how to counter this already. But right now, seeing him in this full dragon form, especially, like, we haven't even talked about this yet, especially when you see this form and it clearly harkens back to the mural, right? Clearly he was the dragon, or this, you know, what's it called? Like the dragon in the mural was clearly utilizing this devil fruit power, right? Yeah. Also, I feel like no tension here makes the future feel unpretentious. That's actually a really good way to describe it, Addie. Yeah, it's like it feels unpretentious. It's like pure unadulterated hype. Exactly. It's like he knows what the rest of this arc is going to be like. He knows what the rest of the series is going to be like. And now it's kind of like a trust the process kind of thing when introducing all these super strong characters. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. It's unpretentious. It's just hype. You're going in just like with pure excitement now. Yeah. I like that. I like that explanation. That's good. But yeah, again, clearly this dragon is the same dragon that we saw in the mural. When we saw the dragon at the top of the mural and the destruction and seeing all the other ships, like, this is that dragon. Which then leads the question, is this dragon, is Nidhogg, right? This, whatever Loki's devil fruit is this one of those earth gods, sun gods, whatever? Because my assumption, based on what we had from the mural, is yes, that this is one of the god powers, quote unquote. And if that's the case, when you're thinking about who those four gods are, Luffy is one of them. Loki is one of them. My assumption is the sea one would maybe be Shirahoshi. And then the other one would maybe be Emu, right? Kind of like with where we are in the story right now, that seems to make a lot of sense. But also, Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon. Shirahoshi is Uranus. So could an ancient weapon also be one of the gods? I don't know. It's just interesting. Also, again, the people of Elbaf see Loki as a sun god, which is what Who's Prof is bringing up in the chat, which I think is a really good thing to bring up, right? That there's multiple interpretations, and that even when we got introduced to Loki, people talk about the fact that Loki had a sun god devil fruit, right? So that being tied here, and even like when you look at Jarl's statement at the end of all this, right? When you see the castle rippling and you see the snow clouds and the lightning falling everywhere and them saying, what is this rhythm? Elbaf is shanking. It's crazy. Jarl says, on an exceedingly rare day, when lightning and snow combine, a vast beast will blanket the sky with its presence, and with the sound of the drums of liberation, the sun god will appear. That could be interpreted multiple ways. That could still be interpreted as the people of Elbaf, right, believing in this dragon as their sun god. But because we've also seen that weird interpretation sleep cryptid of Nika, right, that destroyed the ship in the previous chapter with Summers, we're also seeing Luffy here. And that looked similar to that version of Luffy. So I'm also wondering if maybe there was like a misinterpretation at the beginning of this story arc of it being like a sun god power, and in reality it was just like a god power. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I really loved this, though. I think this was an excellent chapter. Love the look of the dragon. Really enjoyed all the stuff with the kids. I appreciate the fact that Summers is just an absolute freak, because it's been a long time since the last time that we've seen a character that just like unequivocally evil. And I think the art was also great this chapter too. Overall, I think this was a very, very, very solid chapter. Am I sad we're going on break? Yes. But am I happy with all of this? Absolutely. Yeah, I love this. Very, very happy with this chapter overall. I think this is great. With that being said, we have had so many super chats during this one. I have to get through some of these super chats. I want to read what people are saying about this chapter. I want to see their theories. I got to give some shout outs to some of the people who became members, like Mikale coming through, becoming a member at the Nakama tier, Death King of One Piece becoming a Pirate King member. Greatly appreciate that. So before we get into any of that, I really do want to see the thumbnail this week and see what James did for the thumbnail. So we're going to open this up. I'm going to go over to the reaction screen. Here we go. Give me a second. Bada bing, bada boom. Over on the reaction screen, and I'm assuming 1174, this is the thumbnail. Oh, whoa! What in the world? This is a weird art style. What is he doing with this? Yo, Luffy looks different with this. What the heck? You've got giant Nidhogg in the background, just like screaming. You can see all the teeth coming off of it, the fire coming out of his eyes, but it's like white fire going into the steam of Luffy a little bit. Interesting. And then you've got a little Ragnar down at the bottom pushing his little hands. Neat. I like the trio. I also really love the colors here. It's kind of funny because like we know of this, the snow and the lightning in the background. But here he made it like a nice clear sky. It almost looks like they're partying a little bit. Also, are Ragnar's ears pink? Well, the inside of his ears would be pink. He's a squirrel at the end of the day. Also, people were joking that Loki's dragon would be pink, so James made him purplish pink. It's honestly good. Well, to be fair, I think he probably is going to be like dark purplish. If you look at the chapter, right, he's all shadowed out here. I think a lot of people are assuming he's just going to be a black dragon. My assumption is he is probably going to be like a dark purple. If I had to guess, that's probably what he's going to be like. Yeah, you can see the bandage added on this as well. But I like the shading on the dragon being pink a little bit. I actually kind of like it. There's some people saying I really do hope that he is pitch black. I think for the purpose of the thumbnail, I think it's nice that he's colored because I think it, pushes out like having him be purple or pink. I think it's going to make it stand out in the thumbnail a little bit. I just really like what he's doing here with Luffy. That is a very different art style from what James normally does. I like this. You can see, also, I can't draw hands for anything. So the fact that he actually is able to draw hands like that with Luffy laughing, even like the look of this, with Luffy kind of like pushing his way into the frame a little bit and Ragnar in the front, Nidhogg screaming in the background. Yeah, this is cool, man. This is very cool. I see people in the chat saying, yeah, he is like a deep purple dragon a little bit. You got Luffy looking like Naoa. Aura farming. I don't know who Naoa is. Naoa? Naoya. Let me type this in. Naoa, the monster. Oh, from JJK, this guy. Oh, yeah. When I saw Naoa, I'm like, what are you talking about? I was thinking it was like a One Piece character. No, you're talking about Naoa from JJK. That's interesting. Wow, that is cool. Also, somebody pointed out the 1128 cover, which has a purple dragon that actually does look just like Loki. 1128. Let me type this in. One Piece 1128 cover. Oh, yeah. In fact, we talked about this a couple chapters ago. We talked about this exact color spread a couple chapters ago. I think it was actually when we first got the reveal of Loki's Devil Fruit. And we were talking about the fact that he's probably going to end up being a dragon. Somebody had pointed out this old cover spread where you've got Luffy, again, this is for chapter 1128, with the giant purple dragon in the background. Again, this would not be the first time that Oda has teased something in a cover page or in a color spread. He's done this a lot. So I do think it's kind of cool that comes up here a little bit. But overall, no, I like the look of this thumbnail. I think this is cool. Honestly, I fully just expected the dragon for this one. That's what I was thinking. After I read this page, I was like, oh, he's just going to draw this page and it's going to be the thumbnail. So the fact that he kind of did something different here and put Luffy and Ragnar on the front and doesn't just kind of outright spoil the dragon in entirety. Because I think that's the other thing. I think if you draw that panel, you're going to always have people complaining like, oh, you're spoiling the chapter for all of us. So I do think kind of having it half in the background a little bit is good. Yeah. Also, you got to remember, too, there was a pink dragon before with Momonosuke. You got the blue dragon with Kaido. Yeah, we've seen a lot of dragons in the story right now. I'm not going to lie, at this point, it feels like Loki is just a better Kaido, and I'm all for it. Well, I mean, Loki's just a monster. Scale-wise, look at how massive he is. He dwarfs Kaido. When you think of everything that happened in Wano Country, and you see this with Loki, and obviously you take into consideration Loki's been chained up, Elbaf has been kind of away from the rest of the world. Like, you understand why all these characters never came in contact with one another. But seeing the scale of Loki and the power of Loki and this dragon form makes and I know people are always annoyed whenever I bring this up, but it's an important thing, and it becomes more important day by day. It makes more sense when you look back to what Big Mom was saying, right? Back during Whole Cake Island, bringing up how upset she was with Lola for not marrying Loki, right? Because Big Mom said, if I had the power of the giants, I'd be able to surpass Kaido and Whitebeard and Shanks, everybody, Blackbeard, everyone. She'd wipe the world if it was the Big Mom crew with the power of the giants. And honestly, I'm inclined to agree with her. I think if you had the entire power of all of the Big Mom pirates, that includes Katakuri, right? That includes your oven, that includes all of them, Sparrow, all of them, plus Big Mom, plus Loki and all of the giants, they're wiping the floor with everybody. Could you imagine, like, Big Mom sucking the soul out of everyone while Loki is flying through the sky destroying everything? It'd be absolutely monstrous if they were allied. So I don't blame Big Mom for being upset at Lola for, ruining this situation for her, being like, what the heck? We could have had Loki on our side. What's going on? So, yeah, exactly. You would have used Kaido like floss. I mean, realistically, when you look at the size of this Nidhogg version of Loki, he really does dwarf Kaido. So, yeah, wild stuff. Wild stuff here. Yeah. Overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this chapter. I think this is great. And once again, I think James did an awesome job with the thumbnail this week. Really, really well done, James. Also, want to give a quick shout out. I wish I knew the name of the coffee shop, but James is actually selling thumbnail stickers at a local coffee shop in Austin. I got to find the name of it. James, if you're here right now in the chat, plug away. Let people know where they can find your stickers and find your merch. But basically, if you're local to Austin, Texas, he's got like an actual pop-up shop inside of this cool like manga coffee cafe. So you can actually get stickers and RogersBase merch and stuff for yourself there. So check it out. All right. With that being said, let's go back over to Just Chatting. Let's talk a little bit about some of these super chats because, again, there is a lot of stuff to talk about in this chapter. All right. First and foremost, we have King Sora. Oh, I'm glad King Sora brought this up. This is good. I'm glad King Sora brought this up. King Sora super chatted and said, are you doing anything special for One Piece live action season 2? Thank you for bringing this up because this is something I specifically wanted to talk about on this stream. I am absolutely going to be covering One Piece live action season 2. Obviously, due to the SAG strikes, I wasn't able to cover the first season right when the first season was coming out. I'm very excited. I have indeed seen the trailer, the new trailer that dropped. I saw all the new character posters. I'm very excited. Cannot wait to see what is going on with, all the stuff with One Piece live action season 2. Can't wait. However, every single time that I upload anything related to One Piece live action season 2, any of the trailers, anything like that, all my stuff ends up getting copyright blocked. So for me, it's not worth it to sit down and do trailer breakdowns or even trailer reactions if it means all my stuff is going to get copyright blocked. So the answer to why I haven't uploaded a reaction to the trailer, why I haven't uploaded like any breakdowns of any of that information is because I just don't want to get hit with the copyright block. That's why. And it hasn't been worth it to me. With that being said, I am absolutely planning on covering season 2, and I'm just sort of in the process right now of figuring out how I am going to do that. Yeah. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that just yet. I think what I'll probably do is go back to how things were during the Hunter x Hunter watch through. If you remember when I did my Hunter x Hunter watch through all the way back in when was that? 2018, 2019? I think what's probably going to end up happening is I will react live on Twitch, because then I don't care about copyright. If we get blocked on Twitch, it's fine. I'll probably react live on Twitch with a timer and watch along with all of you probably the first week that it's out. We'll probably binge it. Because again, that comes out the day after my birthday. My birthday's the 9th. I believe it comes out the 10th. So we'll probably do like a big birthday celebration / like reaction stream for it. And then what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to cut down those reactions to the episodes and upload them daily with edits, with the timestamps, and then have each episode kind of be its own video and see how that plays out. Because I think if I'm able to do that without the images on screen, while still like intercutting stills of the episodes, because I'll be able to timestamp while we're live, I think that might be the best way to go about it. And then that way, I could just upload the full reactions that we do on Twitch over to my members, and then that would be that. And then we don't have to worry about getting copyright claimed or copyright strikes or whatever. But there's some people that show the whole thing on screen and don't get copywritten. And I know people will, I've had this conversation, I can't even tell you how many times over the course of my YouTube channel, being like, well, other people do it, why can't you do it? Well, other people do it, and then you get a situation like what's happening with Jamie right now, right? Where all her videos are getting copyright blocked and copyright claimed. And she's like, I don't know why it's happening. It's because you're showing the images on screen, and there's no way to get around it. You can't really counter it because these companies are going to block it anyway. If at any point, any of these companies are like, we want to flip a switch and destroy all your channels, they can do it if you are showing the full images on screen, no matter how careful you're being. So that's why I always have the filter. That's why a lot of the time we don't have audio. And I know a lot of people who come into the channel who want to see reactions, who want to see the full video, right? Get upset. But those kind of situations are the reason why I don't do it. But essentially, bringing it all back, again, the answer to your question, yes, I am doing something special for One Piece live action season 2. Excuse me, man, I'm so sorry about my cough today. I've had this cough for like the last 2 weeks. It's been terrible because I had a really, really bad cold when I got back from Chicago. And then I got over the cold and now I feel perfectly fine. But because I was coughing so much when I was sick, I pulled a muscle literally like right here in one of my ribs. And so now every time I breathe in or I cough, it literally like creates a muscle strain right here and a sharp pain right underneath my lung. And it's just brutal. And it's been healing. I've been feeling better the past couple days. But obviously when I'm doing a live stream and doing a live reaction and talking loud and screaming, it just like kicks people back. So yeah, it is what it is. So I'm sorry about the coughing during this one. I know that's probably annoying for people, especially for people who are listening to the audio version. So yeah. Hitetsu said, to be honest, I think with your reactions, it's going to be enough to have the time on going on screen and nothing more. The way you upload, you could probably upload full stuff. I might be wrong, though. Well, I also think that people say they want your full reactions to the episodes, right? People say they want their full uncut reactions with the little timer in the corner, you know, but then when they watch the video, and this happens so frequently whenever I upload them fully, people will be like, this is so boring. He's just sitting there watching it for half of it, right? Because again, if I can't show images on the screen, even if you use it like a commentary track, the majority of people who find it in the algorithm, like it would hurt my channel immensely if I uploaded that. The retention time for those videos would be absolute dog water. And I know that having done videos on YouTube for like the better part of a decade now. So I know fully there are some people who really want that, but I think that's probably going to be exclusively for members or for people who watch live as we're doing it on Twitch. So my number one thing I would tell you is if you don't have the money to be a member right now and you want to see the full reactions when we are doing One Piece Season 2 reactions, go subscribe. Not go subscribe. Well, you can subscribe. But again, go follow my Twitch. Definitely go follow my Twitch, because if you follow my Twitch, that's where we'll be watching everything and you'll be able to see it for free and you won't have to pay for anything. And then afterwards, you can see the spliced up versions and then you won't have to worry about it. So yeah, that's my biggest advice for you. If you want the full uncut reactions, because I'm probably not going to upload them here to YouTube because I don't think they would do very well at all. Because again, I did that for the first season and they didn't do very well. So I would say just go watch over on Twitch and then wait, if you're somebody who just wants to see the highlights, wait for like the shorts or whatever that I make out of that stuff. And that'll be that. But, and then also, yeah, my final thoughts on some of the other stuff that happened with One Piece Live Action Season 2, the reveals. I think Kureha looks great. I think Wapol looks awesome. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it looks great. I think the dinosaurs look great. I think the CG looks good. I think Laboon looks amazing. Yeah, everything that we've seen so far for Season 2, I think is knocking it out of the park. So I'm very, very excited about what we've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to watching Season 2. Yeah. Where did we leave off with these super chats? Let's see. Let me see. We got one from Bryant Brawler who said, Roger, what are your top 10 manga moments you can't wait to get animated? I'm not going into that right now because that would be a whole big thing. I'll tell you right now, a couple moments. I'm not going to do a top 10 because that's silly. I'll say the Nidhogg moment's going to be awesome. I think the God Valley fights are going to be great when you get into the anime. Once we start seeing God Valley animated, I think Rox versus Garp and Roger is going to be awesome. I also think like some of the stuff with Loki, just his initial introduction where you see him up against the tree and like him sort of aura farming with Shamrock, I think is going to be great. So yeah, I think those are moments that I'm really looking forward to seeing animated. I will say, based on what little we've seen of the anime so far with Elbaf, I'm not a huge fan of the color scheme of like the opening of the arc with the Legos. I get why they're doing it, but I don't know, it looks a little too colorful for me. I hope when we get into Elbaf proper, even with characters like Loki who've got like pink purplish hair or whatever, I hope it's got a little more of like a subdued color scheme, like more browns and greens and that kind of like natural stuff, you know. I would like this, or obviously with the snow, with the whites, the use of like white with Luffy and then the snow as well, I think it'd be cool. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I think those are kind of like the key moments. I think Loki and then all the stuff with, what's it called? God Valley, I think are going to be great. Yeah. Imagine what Loki's hybrid form is going to look like. That comes from Maza, who super chatted earlier. I think his hybrid form is going to be amazing. The question is his hybrid form going to be smaller than his full devil fruit form? Probably. My assumption would be his hybrid form would still be bigger than base Loki, but would probably still be significantly smaller than when he's in his giant dragon form. Yeah. Brian Carter super chatted and said, for the live action, are you going to do Patreon? No. Again, I do not have a Patreon. I'm never going to have a Patreon. I don't use Patreon. I will not have a Patreon. If you want the full reactions to live action stuff, go follow the Twitch or become a member on YouTube. But I do not have a Patreon. I will not have a Patreon. There's no use in having it on a different platform. You can support me here on YouTube if you really want to support me. But I do not have Patreon. I've never had a Patreon, and I'm not going to have a Patreon. Do you expect more breaks coming up due to the live action coming out? I don't. I think we're going to have, obviously, we know we have a break after the next chapter. I think we'll probably have a break the week that the live action comes out. But I don't think it's going to be like constant breaks. Because it's not like Oda's going on press tours promoting everything. He might show up at one of the fan events or something. But otherwise, yeah, I think we're going to be good. Yeah, I think we're going to be good for the most part. Also, based on what Oda said during Jump Festa, it really does, and based on, like, again, the scale of Loki and the power of everything we've seen here, I really do think, like, we're moving pretty fast to the climax of Elbaf. I really do. So I actually think we're going to be out of Elbaf sooner than a lot of people are thinking. I'm not going to give, like, an exact chapter number of how many we are away from the end of Elbaf, because, again, I think that's silly. Every time people ask that, it's like, it's just not worth debating. I think a rough estimate, I think we're going to be out of Elbaf like midsummer is, I think, when we're going to be out of Elbaf. Again, unless Emu starts summoning more God Knights here or whatever, I really do think our main struggle is against Gunko, Emu, Summers, and Killingham. And I think once those three are sort of taken care of, that's it. Yeah. So that's how I feel right now. That's how I feel about it. Let me see. Let me continue. Calling it now. This is from Rock and Afro. I feel like Loki's devil fruit is a dragon from the mural. We totally talked about that earlier, and I completely agree. Pretty much confirmed. This also comes from Matrunks, who also super chatted saying the exact same thing. Pretty much confirmed that Loki is the big dragon from the mural, possibly destroying the red line. There you go. Yeah, there you go. A lot of people super chatting the same thing. Loki's the one from the mural. Can you believe it? Forever Nami super chatted as well and said, I did a little research, and as many are theorizing, I do think Loki's devil fruit is based off Nidhogg from Norse myth. We talked about that a little bit earlier as well. We've been bringing up the Nidhogg thing, I think, for a couple weeks at this point. I think it just makes sense when you know Norse mythology and you know see the look of Loki's devil fruit, and you know he's a giant dragon, and you know how important that character is to the lore. So, yeah, I completely agree. I think it is Nidhogg. Alejandro Solis said pixel scaling is saying that if... Who is pixel scaling? First off, I don't know who that is. Pixel scaling is saying that if giant Luffy is the same size in Wano... Oh, you're saying... I see what you're saying. You're saying pixel scaling like... I see. You're talking in terms of size of the characters. I see. This makes sense now that I'm reading the rest of your donation. Alejandro said pixel scaling is saying that if this giant Luffy is the same size that he was in Wano, then one of Loki's horns is the same size as Kaido's full dragon form. So literally Kaido's full dragon form is the size scale-wise of just one of Loki's horns. That is crazy. Wow. And that does make sense, again, because we've seen Luffy in this, when you look back at Luffy's size in this chapter, where he's jumping up in the air, and you saw Luffy using Kaido like a jump rope. Yeah, scale-wise, I mean, that would be about the same as Kaido. Wow, that's crazy, dude. Again, goes to show, like, I don't see a world in which Loki is losing. Dude's an absolute monster. He's going to be a beast. Yeah, Loki could have an entire country on his back. He's going to be awesome. King Sorrowful super chatted and said, I have a feeling that Karoo isn't going to be in season 2, but saved for season 3, seeing how much CGI. I'm fine with it. Chopper looks perfect, and I'm excited for future seasons. I think Karoo is going to show up in season 2. I think you're going to see Karoo in season 2. Obviously, Karoo is going to have more to do in season 3 once you see the other ducks and we get into Alabasta proper. But Karoo, if they're doing like the Unluckies, if they're actually making CGI Unluckies, they're of course going to do Karoo. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. But I think he's going to look great. Yeah, I think Karoo's going to look great. Scuba super chatted and said, next chapter, I actually think we're going to cut away to Marijoa and let Loki's full design and extra powers marinate just to see what else is happening. Do you have any thoughts on that? I don't think we're going to jump away to Marijoa next chapter. I think we're like right in the thick of the action in Elbaf right now. I think it's mostly going to be the continuation, because especially like of the way the stuff was set up with Summers this chapter, and then him looking up in the sky and freaking out after seeing everything that happened here. I think next chapter is mostly going to be destruction. I really do feel like next chapter is going to be showing off what Loki can do. That's what I think the majority of the next chapter is going to be. I think it's going to be Loki really just decimating a lot of these, a lot of these sleep cryptids. Maybe seeing, where Zoro and Sanji are going to be. We know Zoro has a plan right now after he sliced up those other giants. Maybe seeing where they are, seeing maybe Usopp do something. But at the very least, I think what we'll probably end up seeing next chapter is like an Oda box devil fruit reveal for Loki. If we're seeing this full form right now, I think it would make sense that next chapter we would get like the Oda box, the actual name of the fruit. It's like the Nidhogg fruit or something. I think that's going to be next chapter. I also, God, I bring this up again. I just really love Ragnar, man. I think that was so smart of him to make this cute squirrel character be Ragnar, and how that ties into Norse mythology with like Ratatoskr. I just think it's great. Oda knows what he's doing. There's going to be lots of cute Ragnar merch. It's going to be great. But no, I don't think we're cutting away to Marijoa or anywhere else anytime soon. I think we are mostly going to stay in the action in Elbaf for a long time. Yeah, that's my guess. I also think it's interesting. This one comes from Real Fan, saying that I think it's interesting Joanna is the only kid that has horns of any of them. Also, Asaf came through with the membership and said, I believe that he is Uranus. You think Loki is Uranus? That's interesting. I mean, I don't hate that idea. I don't hate the idea of like a devil fruit user being one of the ancient weapons. I don't hate that at all. I think that's fine. I still think Uranus is probably going to be involved in some way with Eneru and the stuff going on with the moon. But yeah, the idea of like tying in Uranus, and the ancient lore of all the stuff with the gods on the mural and Loki here, I think is great. Yeah, I don't hate that idea at all. Also, Boo-hoo super chatted and said, real ones know the title of this chapter is about love and not Loki proper. Summers is the type of person that Nami hates most, so I think actually she and Sanji could team up to exterminate him. First off, using the term exterminate him is crazy, but also awesome because Summers is terrible and he should be exterminated. But I like what you said about the strongest thing in the world not being about Loki, right? It's actually about the love that these parents have for their children. I agree. It's a good mirror. Again, it works in both ways. It works talking about Loki. It works talking about the love that these parents have for their kids. Those are the best kind of chapters. When the titles work both ways, it's great. Aditya came through with the super chat and said, Roger, I just want to say I've loved your content for years. Your energy is unmatched. Thank you for all of the amazing streams. That's very kind, Aditya. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Also, Charles is saying, I'm super chatting to say I am also coughing this weekend. Let's both get well soon, dude. Gambare, gambare. Again, you can tell, like, I'm fine right now. It's just when it hits a little bit, when that muscle spasm kicks in, it's like, oh, it's rough and it just hurts. But yes, let's get better together, Charles. Absolutely. I ate your potato, super chatted and said, I'm curious and terrified at how strong Emu and whoever took Emu's body are if Nika with the dragon in World 1 and Joy Boy in World 2 lost. Extremely scared and extremely terrified to see what that will be like. I couldn't agree more. Again, I think Emu, when we see Emu proper, not Emu taking over another character, when we see Emu proper, fully showcasing what Emu can do, I do agree. I think it is going to be absolutely terrifying, right? The full extent of the reversey, the full extent of absorbing all the powers that have been lent out through the Abyss contracts over the years and absorbing them back into Emu, that's going to be monstrous. It's going to be like fighting all the Gorosei and Emu and all the Celestial Dragons that made pacts with him all at once. It's going to be horrifying. Yeah, again, Final War is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Matrunks super chatted and said, this is actually old news, but in an interview with Robin's actress, she stated she had a fun scene with Wapple's actor. Interesting change to the story. Wait, what? Old news, but an interview with Robin's actress stated she had a fun scene with Wapol's actor. Interesting change to the story. Oh. Yes. Well, I think that's because they're probably going to tie in Baroque work stuff with Wapol. I think there's going to be stuff probably tying in those characters together. That is a change to the story, obviously. Robin did not meet with Wapol. Well, Robin met with Wapol in the movie. That was a redo of the original Drum Island story arc, but again, was not present during the original Drum Island. But I do think she will probably act as a liaison to Drum Island and make some type of connection there with Baroque works and Wapol working with them and stuff. That's probably what's going to end up happening, just to have a clearer through line for the audience. Yeah, I agree. I actually had not read that interview, though, so I'm glad you brought that up, Matrunks. Appreciate that. Satwick also came through with the member message and saying Zoro had a plan versus Kaku and Jabra, cuffed with Usopp and Zoro having a plan with Pika. Now I'm wondering what his plan is going to be again. Get Ginger Soul with water? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I'm reading this. Zoro had a plan versus Kaku and Jabra. Cuffed with Usopp, Zoro had a plan for facing Pika. Now he has plan again. Can't wait for Ginger Soul with water. I might be having a stroke. I have no idea what that means. Oh. You're talking about my cough. I see. Honey and ginger solution with water for your cough. Zoro's plan was for your cough. I see. Wow. That is, I want to give a shout out to my audience right now. I want to give a shout out to my chat for actually understanding what was going on with that message. Wow. I am amazed that my chat actually knew what that meant. Because I didn't know what was happening. I was reading that. I was like, I don't know what it was. I was limited to 150 words. Yes, honey and ginger solution is what I meant to say. Yeah, I guess because with super chat messages, you can only say so much. Bro, the fact that people in my chat understood that is just amazing. So thank you for interpreting that. Thank you, Sotwick, for wishing me well and making a cute little joke about my cough with Zoro getting me some honey and ginger tea. That's great. Chat came in clutch, though, bro, because I didn't know what the hell was going on there. Goodness gracious. People who are listening to the audio version are like, what is going on with Roger today? He's coughing. He's having a stroke. Wow. Okay, well done, chat. Well done. Knowing what's going on. Exactly. No need for Chat GPT. I've got an actual Chat GPT. Chat GPT is my live chat, breaking things down for me. Incredible. What is going on here? I think I missed two other I missed a couple super chats. Wait a minute. Hold on. I missed a lot of these, actually. One comes Roberto. Roberto said, look, I have a crazy theory for you that Loki's devil fruit is so legendary that it might be a hybrid form with a wolf and a full form being a dragon. So you think it could be like Nidhogg in its full form and Fenrir in its hybrid form? That would be kind of crazy. That would be wild. I don't think it's going to be that, though. I don't think he's going to have the Norse mythology fruit that just summons all the different creatures from Norse mythology. That could be awesome, though. We do know that when he's in his hybrid form, from what we saw in the flashback, that he's got, like, claws. So that's kind of cool. Maybe he is like a wolf dragon hybrid thing in his mid form. Who knows? I don't know. The Norse fruit. Exactly. That's a cool idea. I'm not against it. Oda could do whatever he wants. I feel like when it comes to crazy theories, especially in Elbaf, I've given up predicting. I feel like just let it wash over me. I think like anything is possible at this point in the story. Yeah. I like the idea, though, that his hybrid form is like a wolf-looking thing. Because you can still kind of do that with a dragon, right? Instead of having... Because the dragon, you could see when you're looking at the dragon form right here, it does kind of look like he's got scales sticking out, but it also kind of looks like he's got hair. So I could see that if he's all shadowed out, in like a hybrid form, looking almost like a wolf with Loki's face. I don't know. We'll see. I am excited to see the hybrid form, though. I think it's going to be cool. Also, later Storm said, I'm just happy that the evil Angie theory is over. Did people think Angie was evil? I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, didn't even know that was a thing. Tood said, you did correctly predict the next manga page, though. I did. I did. Well, I figured how else are they going to get out of that situation? If they're falling off the cliff and Luffy and Loki are making their way back up, what else is going to happen? Who else is going to save them? You know, just made sense. Yeah. Brian said, how many more volumes do you think Elbaf will be? Also, Roberto said, thanks for thinking that my theory wasn't completely insane. Hope you have a good day and rest well. We will see you later. Hey, thank you, Roberto. Appreciate that. How many volumes do I think Elbaf will have? Let's see. One Piece volumes. How many volumes has it been already? Let's see. List of One Piece manga volumes. Let's actually go to the One Piece wiki version because this shows all of the... Where is it? All the cover pages. Let's see. Volumes, story arcs, One Piece volumes. This isn't the one I'm looking for. I know there's like a volumes, hold on, page that shows all of them in order and then how many chapters are, here we go. This is what I was looking for. All right. So right now, when you're looking at Elbaf, here, I'll open this up to the other screen too while we're doing this. Let me open this up. Okay. Elbaf currently has 1, 2, 3 full volumes on the market. The fourth volume for Elbaf is coming out March 4th and is going to include 1156 probably to 1167 or 1166, which is Ida's Sons and New Stories, which is the remainder of the stuff with God Valley. So that's a full volume right there. Literally just those chapters. Which then leads me to believe, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then today's chapter 7. That will be in the 5th volume. But I realistically don't see a world in which we finish within that 5th volume. I think we've got to at least have a full volume after that. Even with everything we're seeing right here, I think we've got to at least have another full volume. That would then bring us to volume 114 is the March volume. Hey, what's going on, Maxim? Maxim dropped 25 euros. Didn't have anything else to say. Just went, yo! Yo, welcome, Maxim. Nice to see you in here, buddy. We are currently predicting how many volumes are going to be left within Elbaf right now. That's what we're doing right now. Right now, we are guaranteed 5 volumes, which will take us 112, 113, 114, 115, 116. Guaranteed at the bare minimum to 116. Guaranteed. That would then mean, because 116 would be summer, no, 115 would be summer this year. 116 would be the end of this year. I could see a world in which we're out of Elbaf by mid to late summer, and the final volume of Elbaf could be 117, because again, 114 is already guaranteed with these chapters. 115, we already pretty much have all the chapters for that one too. 116 is probably going to be the last full volume of Elbaf, and then 117 will probably be as we're coming out of it, which would be early next year, would be when that volume releases. But that would be, again, late summer, early fall, if that were the case in the manga this year. So I think volume-wise, we've still got about half of the volumes to go. But I think release-wise, we'll probably be out of it by the end of this year. Well, no, by the end of the summer or mid-fall at the latest this year in the manga. And by the beginning of next year in the manga volumes, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Because I do think we'll be into the next arc, Lodestar, Final War, whatever, by the end of this year. Yeah. Also, whenever I hear Summer, it's ruined for me now because I keep thinking you're talking about Summer as the character. No, I mean the actual season of Summer. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. But again, there's a lot more left. Again, thank you, by the way, Max. I'm coming through with a nice 25 euro donation. Just dropping a yo-ho-ho. Greatly appreciate that. Oh, the reason why Maxim said it. Oh, he says why. He clarified another donation. He just said, it's actually because I just arrived and missed the reaction, but I'm right there with you and totally agree. Volume 117 is probably most likely, right? Because I've been saying this. I've been on this train for how many years at this point, right? When you look at the timing of the release of the manga volumes, right? When you look at when those volumes are coming out and what number of volumes come out every year, which is usually about 3 to 4 volumes, mid 2027 takes us to around the time where we would have volume 120, which would be the exact second half of the series. Because again, the first half of the series went to volume 60, second half would be to 120. I believe by that point we will be in Final War. We will be in actual endgame of One Piece by volume 120. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't go on for another 3-4 years, right? Of course it can. But I think when Oda made that prediction at the end of Wano, where he was like, I think we got 5 years left, I don't think he was actually trolling with that one. And I think everything we've seen within the story so far, I think he's right. I think we've got about 5 years from the end of Wano, which is mid 2027, to be at the end of the story. But again, the end of the story is going to be its own story arc that's going to last 3-4 years. So again, he wasn't technically lying when he said we were reaching the end 5 years from the end of Wano, but we also know there's a lot more content on the way. We know we're going to be in this for years at this point. They're going to do a whole thing for the 30th anniversary of the manga in 2027. It's going to be a whole big thing. They're going to be a celebration for the anime in 2029. They're going to be going for a while. They're going to be going for a while. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm fully on board with the idea of 2027 being the beginning of the end for One Piece, and that being essentially leading into all the stuff with Final War and Laugh Tale and all these massive fights. Because again, the thing that I keep bringing up to people, Elbaf realistically is probably our last big Adventure Island story arc, right? It's the last big story arc where we're on a named island that we've known about for a long time with its own internal conflict with all the stuff with Loki and with Herald and God Valley, all the stuff that's happening in Elbaf, all that stuff is relegated to that island. All the stuff with these kids and the mural and all that. There's overall world building stuff happening and getting revealed, but there's a core story within Elbaf proper. Whereas I think when we're in Final War, the core story is then the full story of One Piece. All of the other story arcs up to the Final War, up to this final arc, there's no need for exposition because we've already gotten the exposition. It's just going to be pure action. And of course there will be some exposition. We're going to get probably an Akainu flashback. I think we're going to get probably a full Akainu flashback. We're probably going to get a full Dragon flashback. We're probably going to get, talking about Final Saga, Final War, right? We'll probably get Dragon Akainu flashbacks. We're going to obviously have a lot of major fights. We'll definitely have some type of major Void Century flashback, for sure. That's going to be a long flashback with Joy Boy and with Emu and with Lily. That's going to be a huge flashback. We're definitely going to have a Blackbeard flashback. Guaranteed we're going to have a Blackbeard flashback. That's definitely happening. Maxim is saying, you really don't think we're going to... Oh, thank you again. These. Just donating through 25 euro donations every time. Because it activates the Mammoth Boys when you do that, Maxim. That's so funny. Thank you. Maxim said, you don't think we're going to get Adventure Time on Lodestar and Raft Tail? I don't, because I think Laugh Tale is mostly going to be fights and story reveals. I think Laugh Tale proper is going to be a lot of reveals about the Void Century, but I think by that point, once we're at Laugh Tale, Final War, the way I've planned out the story in my head, what I think is going to happen based on context clues, my assumption is by Laugh Tale, we're already going to know the truth of the majority of the rest of the world, right? And Laugh Tale is going to be that confrontation with the Yonko that remain, right? Your Cross Guild, Straw Hats, your Blackbeard Pirates. Shanks, I think, is going to get taken care of before we even get to Laugh Tale. I think Laugh Tale is really going to be the battleground for all the final major fights leading up to the discovery of the One Piece and what it actually is. But I think the majority of the Void Century stuff will probably be Final War. And I think Lodestar is going to be very short. If we actually do have a Lodestar story arc, which again, it seems like that is kind of what's being set up. Oda mentioned with Jump Festa in the beginning of the year, he mentioned that Lodestar, well, he didn't mention Lodestar by name, but he said that island, right? That we will reach that island by the end of this year. And a lot of people who are more casual readers were like, oh my God, that means Laugh Tale. Oh my God, Laugh Tale is going to be crazy. We're getting there at the end of this year. We're actually entering the final saga. But again, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think he was talking about Laugh Tale. I really think he's talking about Lodestar, because Lodestar is kind of the one that I assumed we were going to skip entirely. That we had talked about it, and they had like you said once you get to Lodestar, that's the end of the Grand Line, and that's where you're supposed to reveal the stuff about the poneglyphs and learn about the poneglyphs for the first time. But again, this was highlighted in Zoe. Like, we already skipped all that. Because we know about all the stuff with the road poneglyphs, we don't technically need to go to Lodestar. The only reason really to go to Lodestar is for Nami to chart her map out, right? That's the only reason. So then they could clearly say, we've made it to the end of the Grand Line. We've gotten to the final island. Now let's loop back to Final War. And then Final War could also be fought on multiple fronts. Who's to say Final War, part of it couldn't be on Lodestar, you know? I think the idea of Final War, when you think about like everybody involved in One Piece, it doesn't all necessarily have to happen at Marijoa. There could be a whole front of Final War at Elbaf. There could be a front of Final War in Big Mom's territory, right? There could be a front of Final War happening in Marijoa. Like, there's all these other places Final War could happen. And it's at the scale of it is so massive that I could see us like cutting to different characters and different things happening on different fronts, and eventually it all culminating at Marijoa and taking down Emu. But I do think the reason we would go to Lodestar would be for us to just say we made it in real time to the final island. I don't think Nami's dream will be done by the next arc. No, because again, like, I think her charting the rest of the world is going to take time. There's tons of islands they haven't been to and that they're not going to get to over the course of the rest of One Piece, right? But there's other stuff about the world she's going to have to discover. And again, even if she does chart the world by Lodestar Island, at the end of the day, right, the world is probably not going to look the same by the end of Final War and by the end of Laugh Tale. A lot of the world may have flooded. Some of those islands might not exist anymore. Some of us might be living on the clouds. You know, the clouds that Vegapunk is creating right now that they want to have the people live on in 50 years. So, like, the world is going to look way different. So Nami charting out everything at the end of Lodestar is not necessarily, like, going to be her final map of the entire world. Yeah. So, I think Lodestar is probably going to happen. I think it's going to be extremely short. Maybe there's going to be a road poneglyph there. Maybe there's some story reveal, and then they have to double back to Final War. But I do think ultimately Lodestar is not going to be an adventure island. Going back to what Maxim said, I don't think Lodestar is going to be an adventure island. I really think Lodestar is going to be a one and done. They show up. Oh, this is kind of cool. What's going on here? Maybe there's like some fun gags. You know how I would see Lodestar? I would see Lodestar like Long Ring Longland. You know where like they arrived at Long Ring Longland? You see all the big animals. There's a couple gags, but then you pretty much get right into the stuff with Davy. I think that's kind of what we're gonna get there. How long was Davy back fight? That was only like 2 volumes, right? So I think maybe it was like 1 full volume. If I'm looking back here, I have to go back. How long was that? I know it went into another one, and we had the stuff with Kuzan. I think it might have just been like 1 full volume though. Let me look. Yeah, so we had... Hey, thank you again, Maxim. Maxim is saying she'll just paint the red line over in blue after it's destroyed and go, that was easy. Yeah, that's going to be how she does the C chart. We're going to use whiteout. We're going to make it blue. It's all blue now. There you go. Don't worry, this red line doesn't exist anymore. She's going to fix her entire chart. Exactly, Maxim, exactly. That's so funny. Yeah, she just wipes the whole thing out with blue ink. There's no red line. There was never a red line. Don't worry about it. That's her new chart. All blue. And that would be Sanji's dream, too. Fishing in the all blue. 2 dreams in 1, exactly. Looking at this, the Davy back fight was only 1 full volume. It was 1 full volume that bled into 2 other volumes. But there were only like 4 chapters in the previous volume and 1 chapter in another. So really, total it was like 1.5 volumes, which is about what I feel like Lodestar would be. I think when we get to Lodestar, that makes sense. Because that would also be like what? That if we're ending Elbaf late summer, early fall, that would then take us through the rest of the year and then end towards the beginning of next year and then get us into Final War just in time to hit that 30th anniversary in mid-2027. So that lines up great for me. I have no qualms with that breakdown if we're actually going to have a Lodestar mini arc. I have no qualms with that. I think that's great. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of stuff that can be revealed there. And as I am always with One Piece, right? I feel like the chapters in between the big story arcs are some of the most exciting. So, like, I think when Elbaf ends on our way to Lodestar, if that's actually where we're going to go, I think those chapters are going to be phenomenal. Because we're probably going to get, like, Blackbeard lore in some of those, now that we know the truth of what happened with Rocks. I think we're probably going to get, like, a lot of stuff with Cross Guild. Maybe, like, an Impel Down 2.0 where they're breaking out Weevil and breaking out Doflamingo. I think it's going to be really exciting. Because, again, presuming this is the last big major story arc, if that's actually how things are, that means that we are probably going to get into a lot of post-arc world building that's going to lead us directly into Final War. That's probably going to be the last time we're going to experience that. Because again, Final War will lead directly into Laugh Tale. There's not going to be like a little post-arc thing that shows us the rest of the world. That's going to take us right there. It's all one big final story arc. Yeah. We might also get a cryptic message that the revolutionaries are about to make their move. That I also fully believe is going to happen. To be fair, Maxim, I am fully on board, Maxim. Fully on board. Also, can I give a shout out, by the way, to Maxim for dropping like 125 euros in donations over the course of this super chat segment. This is crazy. We've been going for an hour and a half with this chapter. To be fair, it was a good chapter. It's a good chapter. I like when these chapters go long and there's a lot to talk about. This is good. Also, we were talking about the live action and we're talking about end of story stuff, so that's fine. But I also completely, totally agree with you, dude, that there's going to be some type of message regarding the revolutionaries at the end of this story arc. Because again, it was brought up in the very beginning of Elbaf that you can't stay here that long, right? That you might get lost in Elbaf if you stay here too long. Shamrock has been out of Elbaf since pre-God Valley time skip. Shamrock was summoned back to the Holy Land to take care of the revolutionaries who have already made their move because they're starving out the Celestial Dragons in Marijoa. They've already made their move. It's done. It's happening already. The beginning of Final War technically has begun already. Like, we're in Elbaf. We're not in the Final War arc right now, but Final War has started already. From the second that the revolutionaries started starving the Celestial Dragons, it's done. It's happened. It's beginning. So I completely agree that we will probably get some message at the end of Elbaf or a cutaway to what's going on in Marijoa with Dragon and the revolutionaries and Shamrock and Garling and some of the other God Knights that are defending the territory and trying to stop these revolutionaries before we lead into Lodestar, which eventually will then call us back. So, yeah, I can't wait, man. I think it's going to be awesome. I really do. I think it's going to be great. Am I missing any other super chats? I'm looking real quick. Oh, I had one more. One more. Hold on. I do have one more, actually. This one comes from King Waffle, who said, do you think that Frankie has memorized the plans for Pluton? If Loki joins or sails with the crew, Frankie could maybe use what's left of the Atom Tree after Ragnarok to build it. Pluton has got to come into play soon. I am very much team Frankie knows how to build Pluton. And I'm also kind of team Frankie's already built Pluton, and that Pluton is the Thousand Sunny. And that somehow, some way, something gets activated in, towards the end of the arc, or he does some type of enhancement that turns the Thousand Sunny into its full final form, which is Pluton. But I love that theory. I heard that theory years ago, that essentially like the blueprint for Pluton is the Thousand Sunny, and that it's all kind of there. Like the base that he needs to build out Pluton is actually the Sunny. And that whatever enhancements he needs to make over time to turn Sunny into Pluton will eventually turn it into the final weapon. Yeah, I love that idea. I've heard that from a lot of people over the years, and I fully agree with it. I think it's a really good idea. Because again, that allows us to then, we know that Pluton proper is in Old Wano country, right? We know that Pluton proper is in Old Wano. That's probably going to be found at some point by Yamato or Blackbeard when he goes to Wano or whatever, right? So I do think ultimately that is going to be taken care of. But then, if Frankie knows how to build it again, somehow it gets destroyed during Final War or whatever, Sunny can convert into it, I have a theory that it's not the Revs at Marijoa, but the Blackbeard Pirates. I mean, it could also be the Blackbeard Pirates, but I really think it's the Revolutionaries. Because again, they've shown in the story scenes of them starving out the Celestial Dragons. So we know that the Revs are there. I also fully believe, I don't know what's going on with Blackbeard, to be honest, but I fully believe he is going to Big Mom's territory and going to Wano country. That there's more stuff going on there, because we already know we got Pudding. I think he's doing like the wipe of all the Yonko territories to get what he needs from there. And I really do think he's going to do something at Old Wano. And that Moria is going to be involved in some way. Yeah. I really can't wait for a Dragon Devil Fruit reveal. You and me both. Also, when and how do you think that Elbaf will wrap up? I mean, we've talked about that a lot during this. So you can go scroll through this super chat section, which has been very long, and we'll talk about it. I'm sorry. I did miss one. I apologize. Sorry. This one comes from Moth Guy. Moth Guy super chatted and said, doesn't the government have Ors Jr.'s body? Do you think there's a way they can use his corpse as a weapon? Maybe like an ancient giant battle? Does the government currently have Ors Jr.'s body? I gotta be honest, I actually don't know. I don't know currently where Ors Jr. is. Maybe they do. Maybe they do have the body. Again, I don't know off the top of my head. I could just look it up right now for you. Where is Ors Jr.? Let's look it up. Little Ors Jr. obviously was taken care of during Marijoa. But let's see. I think he was buried, and we don't currently know Little Ors' status. Last time we saw Little Ors Jr. was during Marineford. The fate after the war was unknown. Interesting. I mean, I could see that happening. I could see them utilizing the body of Little Ors Jr. to create some type of weapon. If we never knew what happened with him, I could see that happening. I don't think that's going to come into play here, though, in Elbaf. I really do think, which I've said multiple times throughout the stream, I really do think the characters present in Elbaf currently are the characters we are going to be dealing with. Gunko Imo, Summers, and Killingham versus the Domi Reverse and the Domi Reversing Giants versus the non-Domi Reversing Giants, Loki, and the Straw Hats. That's what I think we're dealing with here. I don't really think there's room, and Gabon, of course, too. I don't really think there's room for more characters showing up right now. And I think them repelling Emu out of Elbaf, or, like you guys said, in the 1% chance they actually lose here, Emu Domi reversing a lot more of the characters and wiping out Elbaf and all of them having to run away, maybe to Lodestar Island to then get ready for Final War. I don't know. But however it ends up wrapping up, I think the characters present in the story currently are going to be the ones present within the climax of the arc. Because again, we're in it right now. He also did say that the climax was going to be explosive with like lots of, cool effects. And we get this chapter right now with a blizzard and thunder and lightning. So we're in the middle of like a giant battle right now. Really, really cool stuff is being set up. So I think from here on out, it's going to be a roller coaster for Elbaf. Now that Loki has made his move, now that we're all on the same level of Elbaf, I think it's going to be pretty hype. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. I'm glad we had a nice long chapter reaction this week. This will tide you guys over for 2 weeks while there's a break week. So, thank you once again to everybody that came through. Thank you once again to everybody who came through during the stream. All the people who super chatted, all the new members. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Again, we'll be back in 2 weeks with my live reaction to 1175. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Dang, you can see it in my, right here under my rib, man. Whew! When you get that cough, it really does kick in. What I was going to say is that even though there is not One Piece next week, many of you who are members know I am currently doing a read-through of Bleach. Next week, same time, 9 a.m. Pacific time, when we normally do One Piece, I will be doing a Bleach read-through stream. We are currently at chapter, let me pull this up. I'll tell you where we are currently. Members, obviously, you already know. We've been doing a lot of this. Let me click this. So we left off with chapter 340 of Bleach. 340. So we're picking up with chapter 341 during this break week. So again, that is going to be, if I read this out, February 22nd. So, wow, we don't have another One Piece chapter until March? Sheesh, man. I guess, yeah, with the break week, it takes us to March 1st. Wow. All right, well, again, next week, no One Piece. We will be doing a Bleach read through, continuing where we left off from 340 with 341. I don't know how many chapters we're going to do. I think it depends on how many people come through to the stream or, what the content is like. But again, I've thoroughly been enjoying reading Bleach for the first time. How does it feel reading the final of the big three? It feels awesome. I'm very happy that I'll finally understand everything about Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. Obviously, I did that full Naruto watch through all those years ago. One Piece I keep up with and have kept up with since I was a kid. So it's going to be great to, actually be caught up with Bleach. Rest up and hope you feel better and hope that cough goes away. Dude, I hope so too. Again, it's killer when I have to do like live streams and I'm talking constantly and I keep, feeling that like muscle spasm right here in my ribs. So, but I will. I'll rest up for the rest of the day. Actually, though, I'm not going to be resting up the rest of the day because, again, I will be on the One Piece podcast later tonight. So I'll rest up midday and then I'll be on the One Piece podcast in the evening. So once again, thank you all for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Nakama! Talk to you guys later, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.